Ellinger. Zach is a fire mitigation and education program manager with the Bureau of Land Management. Zach's worked for federal agencies in fire management since 1999. During his career, he's worked with the public, stakeholders, and partners to promote wildfire outreach and mitigation strategies. During fire season, Zach learns how different communities prepare for wildfire while serving as a fire prevention education team leader, fire investigator, and public information officer. Zach attended the University of Nevada, Reno, focusing on ecological restoration, fire ecology, and rangeland habitats. And he is the head of putting a lot of these prevention teams together and guiding a lot of the work that's being done. So, Zach, it's great to have you, and I'll give you the floor,
Thanks,
the
Robin.
virtual floor.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I just wanted to highlight that I did get my Smoky calendar this year. So if this thing ends up on eBay for the highest bidder, you'll know why. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the introduction, Robin. You're doing a great job with those bios. Sometimes there's some tongue twisters in there. Yeah, so first off, I guess I'd just like to thank everybody for hosting, all the folks that have been pivotal and behind the scenes putting this together. It really it gladdens my heart to see so much emphasis on fire prevention education teams and fire prevention in general. And I know the Southern area is at the forefront of leading the charge for advocating for fire prevention. So I just want to thank all the folks. And I also will preface my presentation with that I know that there are many, many people in the room today who have just as much, if not much more experience than me with fire prevention education teams. So I will defer to their expertise at any point in time. And I only have 9 slides for my presentation. They're meant to promote dialogue and have a conversation about prevention teams. So I don't mind being interrupted at any point if anybody wants to expand on a topic, and we're going to leave lots of time at the end for questions and answers. So let me try to get my presentation going in Teams here again. We tried this in a dry run last week and it worked well. So hopefully, fingers crossed. All right.
Oh, yes, we can see it.
Okay, excellent. All right, go ahead and get started. Again, Zach Ellinger. I'm currently the Fire Prevention Education Team Program Manager and the chair of the NWCG Fire Prevention Education Team Subcommittee. And all that means is, essentially we need to have some primary points of contact for coordinating prevention team deployment and making sure that things run as smoothly as possible. And I have a vested interest in prevention teams, being a prevention team leader myself, and finding it one of the most exciting and I think effective tools that we have in fire management. So I wanted to make sure that we continued the legacy that had been set forward prior to my taking the program manager and continue that quality of excellence and service. And hopefully that's what we're getting. But we're going to talk a little bit about prevention teams. And again, there are a lot of folks. This is pretty low level for those folks that may not have heard about fire prevention teams. So it's just a little introduction as to what they are and what they do. And this is the book answer. The only thing I'd like to highlight here, Robin, is that this number up here, this 3 to 10 people, this has changed recently. We used to understand that prevention teams were a little bit smaller than they are now, and we can talk more about that later on. But one of the biggest changes we've seen over my tenure in fire prevention is that the delegations of authority are becoming more complex, and the geographic areas that we're representing are becoming larger, and our social issues that surround fire prevention have become more complex also. And so some of the things that we're being asked to do really could not be accomplished without a larger team in many instances. So that's that, and we can talk more about that again a little bit later on. These are the primary reasons why fire prevention teams are ordered. This is not by any means an exclusive list. There are other things that prevention teams are capable of doing and have been used outside of these program areas quite extensively. But this is, again, the book answer as to what we would hope that people would start thinking about when or if they decide that they may need a prevention team. And again, we'll talk more later about the difference between regional, local and national prevention teams, but this, I think that these rule sets kind of apply universally across those three. And if you have any questions about how to mobilize a fire prevention team, there's a reference there down at the bottom to the MOB Guide, Chapter 20, pages 9 and 10, and it's headed under Cooperative Fire Prevention Education Teams. So I wanted to talk a little bit about our deployments last year and what the program looked like. In 2016, we had, or I'm sorry, 2022, we had 16 team assignments across the United States. That includes all the assignments that we know of, including local and regional and national teams. But there's always some that we don't pick up on that kind of slip through the cracks. Some local teams that just, the local unit decided that they had an immediate need to address, and they built a functioning and working prevention team and just deployed it locally, and it didn't make my radar. So I'll just throw that caveat in there. Those are the states that were represented by prevention teams or that prevention teams served. And then right now on the National Prevention Education Team roster, team leader roster, we have the schedule. We have 12 active team leaders. So, that's our depth right now. And I'll talk a little bit about the schedule, but at any point in time, we have a primary team and a secondary team up. And then once that secondary team is out, that's our drawdown level. We've essentially tapped our national prevention team schedule at that point. And the other thing that I'd like to emphasize there is it's not a rotation. And so we just don't have the depth for a rotation. So if we start treating it like a rotation, then we're kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit. And the next team that's up on the schedule wouldn't be available for their assignment if we were to utilize it in that manner. So there are ways around that, or ways that we can address that. And I'm happy to work with units if we have all of the national teams deployed at any point and need another national team, then we can start shaking the tree and seeing who's available, who may not have been available for a national commitment back in January when the schedule was published. And then just a little bit about what prevention teams did last year. General fire awareness, distribution, campaign development, special events. We have oftentimes events like rainbow family gatherings, Sturges, solar eclipses, things that tend to bring a lot of people into areas that aren't accustomed to absorbing a lot of people on a very short period, and that create unwanted human fire issues. So fire prevention teams are a great resource to utilize for those types of events. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the subcommittee. This is a fairly newly formed subcommittee in the greater scheme of things in the history of NWCG subcommittees. And I'm assuming here that everybody's pretty familiar with NWCG and their mission, but this is off of our committee charter. And so those 5 bullet items are fairly universal for all NWCG subcommittees. The purpose and intent of them is to do exactly those things outlined, and that really is the extent of our authority. And so really, we have some more specific projects that I'm going to talk about here in a minute that we're working on nationally, but those are the overarching goals of the committee. And it's comprised of the following folks. We've got representatives from the Forest Service, the National Association of State Foresters, the National Park Service, the BLM, and the BIA right now. And as you can see, this list is not all inclusive. We would love to have more members on our committee, and would accept members from any recognized agency or entity that NWCG allows onto their committees. And that's quite the breadth of both subject matter experts, so people, not only people who AD, but people who just have experience in a certain field that is applicable to the committee. You don't have to be associated with a federal agency or state agency to participate in the subcommittee process. So right now, it's sending out the invitation for everybody on the call that if you're interested in participating in the committee, please reach out to me. My contact information will be here at the end of the presentation. Sorry, I'll go back for a second. So the committee will be voting tomorrow ratify a nomination for a new chairperson. Mark Thibodeau has been nominated. Mark Thibodeau from the U.S. Forest Service in Region 5 has been nominated as the new chairperson, and we just need to vote on that. We're holding a special session tomorrow to do that. I'll continue to be the program manager for the year, and then we'll address whether or not the program manager position should be tied to the chairperson position or not. That's one of the committee's items of business. Okay, so from a kind of a bigger perspective, some of the things that that we're working on and what we see as opportunities and challenges for the next 5 years, and then near term and long term. We recently there was a group of folks that met to present P410, which is our 400 fire prevention level training, team leader training course, NWCG course this spring. And that course hasn't been updated in, I believe, 12 years. It could be as many as 14. But the content of the course is excellent. The objectives and lesson plan is completely sound, but it just needs a little bit of a refresh, a facelift. And so, and there's some stuff that didn't exist 12 to 14 years ago that we're now utilizing in fire prevention teams that we feel should be incorporated in the curriculum. And so that's one of the top priorities for the subcommittee, is to take a look at that training and see how we can kind of bring it up to speed. It also needs to be translated is not the right word, but transitioned into the new NWCG format. So some folks probably already know that there are no more printed instructor guides or student workbooks or handbooks. The lesson plans and handouts have all been digitized or should be digitized, but none of that has happened for P410. So that's something that the subcommittee will have to request happen, and then work with an assigned training officer from NWCG or training specialist to make that happen. So that's another one of our high priorities. I noticed that the Southern area has a regional priority trainee program, and that's great. I applaud everyone for that. That's we really do find value in that, and that's been something that we wanted to adopt nationally for a long time. Some geographic areas recognize prevention team member and team leader as priority trainee positions, and some regional areas don't. So the committee will be working with those GACs to try to get that set up so that we have an opportunity to get people the qualifications and training that they need. And then lastly, the incident model adoption of FireNet system with shared inboxes. And for folks that haven't heard of FireNet, it's the national standard now for file sharing and for incident business on all IMTs, but it's also adopted throughout the dispatch world and all of wildland fire. So every year the NMAC, the National Multi-Agency Coordinating Group, puts out a memo just kind of reinforcing that FireNet is now what we're using. It's a Microsoft Teams platform that comes with a licensed account. Although the platform itself has been opened up with enough accessibility so that anybody can use FireNet if they just have an invite as a guest, with almost full capability and functionality of the program. So the shared inboxes thing is incident specific, but I see a value in it for fire prevention team deployment, and that would basically allow each member of the team to have access to a shared inbox and email from a shared inbox. So we're not emailing correspondence or communicating with individual email address, but it's whatever the name of the incident is at firenet.gov. And so that's something the committee will be looking at and seeing if that's a system that we would like to adopt. The opportunity is there to do so. And then some of our challenges near term, we have this looming PIOC conversion. I know that this is probably not the first time this has come up on this call, but perhaps it has, and I'll share what I know about it. Right now, there's the complex incident management team conversion going on. And without getting into the weeds on that, because I would really mess it up, the short of it is that the positions that we know of as PIO1, PIO2, and PIOF are all going away in 2024. And PIO1 and 2 will be wrapped into PIOC, and PIOF will become a PIO3. And there's an established process for for converting from a PIO 1 or 2 into a PIOC, and it comes with some hoops that folks have to jump through. And so from a logistical standpoint and from a program management standpoint, the prevention team subcommittee is very interested in how we're going to embrace that switch or adapt so that we can continue to have successful deployments of prevention teams across the United States and internationally. So I don't have all the answers right now as to what that's going to look like, but I do know that there is a dedicated team of professionals within the NEMO, National Incident Management Organization, that is dedicated just to dealing with the complex incident management team conversion, and there are folks at the table having conversations with them from prevention teams about how to move forward with that. So there's some infographics out there that are in draft phase. I can share one at the end of the presentation that kind of includes a crosswalk as to how folks can become qualified as PIOC. But at the end of the day, in 2024, we're either going to have to take out PIOCs or PIO3s. We won't be able to order PIO 1s or 2s. And so that's going to create, we know that's going to create a bottleneck, and there's just not going to be enough qualified PIOCs out there to go around. I know the incident management teams are struggling with a deficit of that position right now, so I can only imagine what that's going to look like a year from now. So we're just trying to look forward on that. I'm just going to keep going. I haven't seen any questions or hands come up yet. I'm just going to keep trucking. The host unit guide and team leader guide are a couple of publications that the subcommittee has been working on for a number of years now. They're completed. There we go. We got one from Michelle. I'm going to take a break so I can get a drink of water, and I'll turn the microphone over to Michelle. Go ahead.
Hi, Zach. I wasn't sure if I missed what a PIOC, what does that acronym stand for?
Complex.
Thank
PIOs.
you.
Yeah. No
I know,
problem.
simple question. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Robin, I saw another hand. No. Okay. Just interrupt me. Oh, go ahead. Denise and EJ. Denise first, then EJ. You got to unmute yourself.
Go ahead, Denise. Do you have a question? Well, so Zach, one thing I will just bring to your attention, we forwarded up to our regional geographic area training committee. There seems to be a little bit of a issue with the SIMC, the state SIMC class transferring in IQCS. So mostly an issue for our state retirees who are now federal ADs. So I hope that gets advanced, or that issue gets brought up higher than our region, but they're looking at it, I hope, this week to see if there's some sort of fix in IQCS for now.
And EJ, I'm guessing that SIMC is the equivalent of like a S520.
It is, yes.
Yeah. So there's that, and that's a known issue, I believe, in IQCS, not just in the region but nationally. But yeah, we'll certainly continue to try to stay on top of those type of things, because it shouldn't be, the push of a button barrier to keep people from being qualified, for sure. Did I see Gwen had her hand up?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, no worries. I knew this one was going to generate some conversation, and we're going to hopefully have some more time to talk about it. I've only got 4 more slides to go, 3 more slides to go. So host unit guide, team leader guide, a couple of foundational doctrine documents that the subcommittee has been working on for a little while. They're completed and in their final draft form. They're with NWCG. And essentially what those are is exactly as they're described in their title. They're going to help host units have realistic and very achievable expectations for prevention teams when they arrive, so that the process and foundation has been laid from the beginning, prior to the beginning of the assignment to the finish of the assignment, that everybody comes out walking away feeling like they've not only done their best work, but their work has been pivotal in enacting change. So that's an important document. And then the team leader guide essentially could replace 410 or could be taught around 410, and it's everything that a prevention team leader needs to know to be successful in that role on an assignment. So again, both of those are with NWCG, their publications writer editor department right now, and we haven't been given a timeline as to their final publication. I'll talk a little bit about NWCG. I don't want to throw them under the bus because that is a dedicated, hardworking group of people, but I'll be honest with everyone and tell you now that fire prevention trainings and curriculum is not their highest priority. Shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, but as far as where we fall in their list of projects, it's not at the top of the list. So hopefully we'll see some movement on that, and I'll continue to work with them to try to get some movement on those publications. But all of the operational qualifications, positions, and trainings are taking priority over the prevention stuff. And that's straight from the program manager. And then recruitment and retention. We're constantly battling to get more folks into the program that are interested in participating and being on the schedule as rostered team leaders. So I know that it's a big time commitment, and that everybody has another job to do, but we would really like to open anyone with open arms, welcome anyone into the program that would like to participate. So again, that's a call to that. And along those same lines, just like with the rest of our fire positions over, we're going to see some baby boomer attrition through retirement in the next couple years. And, that's not just a fire problem. It's a national problem for a lot of different skill sets, but prevention teams are going to feel it just like everyone else. And so we want to continue to recruit people into the program. And then ultimately we would seek permanent funding and program support from the national level, whether or not that's individual agencies or the National Fire Program. That's open to interpretation, but we would like to see an attainable and sustainable permanent funding program for prevention teams, much like the National Incident Management teams. Okay, a little bit more about qualifications. So, and I should have put at the top of the slide, this is a snapshot in time. This is 2023, and remember, things are going to change a little bit in 2024 with our PIO qualifications. But right now, PETL and PETM, that's supposed to say L&M. Dang it, I meant to fix that. Oh yeah, it does. With P410 is now a requirement. Folks that had the qualification before the requirement was instated are grandfathered in, so to speak. And then same thing with PETM. If you had taken prevention education team member course P310 and were already qualified, then it would be a good idea to go back and get the class, but it's not a requirement. But for trainees, it is. And that's what I tried to capture here on this slide, is that if you're a trainee in either one of these positions, before your position task book can become certified, you have to attend the training. That doesn't mean that you can't go out as a prevention team leader trainee on an assignment, and that assignment would count towards your recommendation for certification. It just means that before your actual position task book can get certified, you'll have to go through that training. And I can see that there's some typos in there. So next, Gwen. And then, of course, we still want to include these folks on our prevention teams. In some instances, you may need a finance or business specialist and then technical specialists. And I know there's a presentation, or has been a presentation, about graphic design. And so I won't go into that, but most prevention teams do rely on some level of graphic designer, as well as other specialties. And that's it, folks. These are some resources that I've hyperlinked into this slide. I'll share this after the presentation with Robin so that everybody has access to it, a corrected version. But, if you want to find out more information about the newly developed incident position descriptions for both PETL and PETM, that information is there. My contact information is there, as well as the P310, which is the newly revised training that follows the new NWCG format. So if you wondered what I was talking about with the new NWCG format for all trainings, yep, except for maybe some of the 500 level and NAFRE courses, they're all going to fall within that template that you see there in P310. And that's what we would eventually like to get P410 to, as well as our subcommittee homepage that hosts all of our guiding documents and schedule meeting notes and minutes and roster. So that was a lot. I talked really fast, knowing that there was probably going to be some discussion and dialogue, hoping that there was going to be some discussion and dialogue. So I'll stop presenting now and just open it up for any questions or comments. Now's your opportunity to bend the ear of the program manager. If there's something you'd like to see changed, let's hear it. Go ahead, Angie.
Yeah, back to the NWCG saying that, updating these trainings aren't their highest priority or whatever. Is that because of all the stuff they're pumping out on SIM and they're all wrapped up on that, or what? What's their reasoning?
Well, it's not a conscious decision, right? So they're kind of in a reactive mode. They have a workload that greatly exceeds their capacity, and so it's a triage type of situation. And so they've been directed by their staff to make sure that the incident positions that have suppression ties come first, that we have our boots on the ground firefighters are being supported with the training that they need before we work on some of the ancillary stuff. And I know that that's going to create some consternation amongst this group. It does for me as well, as whether or not fire prevention is ancillary. But in the suppression realm, as we all know, it often does fall into that category. And so they're just purely trying to manage their workload.
Zach, and if you don't mind, this is Mark Thibodeau. I'm maybe the incoming chairperson for the prevention committee after a vote real soon. So we talked about this yesterday a little bit during the training, P course training updates. And, one of the things, we're under the CEPIC program. Myself and Zach participated in a task force to look at the prioritization of trainings. And our subcommittee oversees P310 and 410, but me and Zach, both having had prevention experience and a history and knowledge of all the courses, having taught them or being instructors for them, felt like 301 needs some updates, but 410 is under the purview of the committee. Now, CEPIC includes law enforcement investigation type courses and public information officer communication courses and prevention courses. So it was brought to my attention yesterday that S203 doesn't include the word internet in it for public information officers. So when you it's just the amount of work that NWCG has with editors and 508 compliance and a lot of the tasks that we wouldn't really think of, but have to go into the production of these courses is a lot, especially with a major change all the way around. So we have to pick and choose our battles, and I would appreciate and hope that there's a lot of people in the South here, Southern region, that would actively participate in the updates, be subject matter experts for these courses when they do come up for revision.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that perspective, Mark. Yeah, and that's a good segue into talking about what the process is. And it's an open, very transparent process for nominating trainings for revision. It is a bureaucratic process. So that there are some forms that have to be filled out and some nominations that have to occur. But the subcommittee is happy to act as your conduit for that. And so you can reach out to any member of the subcommittee with that information and they'll forward it through and make sure that it's followed up with. Go ahead, Gwynn.
Hey, Zach, thanks for your presentation. Good job.
Thanks.
I'm just wondering if maybe the group would want to share what they've heard are some of the limiting factors for their agencies ordering FPETs. Because sometimes if we don't know what the issues are, then it's hard to solve it. I'm just kind of curious if they've got some input on that.
Yeah. Yep, it's a great question. I think that, well, I'll let the group reply to that, but I think funding is probably the first thing that comes up every time, the question of funding and how do we fund an FPET? And there's quite a bit of educational material out there, but the short answer is that there are lots of different ways to fund an FPET, both through resource sharing and prioritization. So, putting in severity requests or finding other funding streams. I would encourage people not to allow that to be their first thought or first hesitation for ordering a prevention team. Work with your geographic area prevention coordinators, also listed in the MOB guide and the program plan. And those folks will work with you to help find the funding necessary through all types of collaborative and interagency processes. Definitely less expensive. Anybody have any replies to Gwen's query about what are some of the barriers for ordering prevention teams so that we can help overcome those? I see Michelle has her hand up.
Yes, Zach. And sorry, some reason I only had just you on my presentation and not the actual PowerPoint before. Anyway, user error. I want to say for my forest, definitely the funding comes to mind or is right up front, but they also perceive or still have a perception that prevention teams are there to go patrol. And that is not the case. And I don't think they really are seeing value in a prevention team more than they see the value in a person on the ground patrolling, meeting people one-on-one.
Yeah, well, there's definitely value in a person on the ground interacting with people one-on-one. I would say, Michelle, that the two things are almost completely not unrelated, but very, very separate. The skill sets that you get when you order a prevention team versus what you're really looking for when you're asking for a patrol person. You could certainly order a prevention team to manage a group of patrol persons and coordinate their patrol efforts. But yeah, prevention team skill sets are more broad in scale and less tactical when it comes to one-on-one interactions. I mean, not to say that any one given prevention team member couldn't be fully successful serving in that role, but it's not what the program was designed for. So that's
Right.
maybe something you could take back to the forest and say, hey, if you're looking for a task force or a strike team of patrols, definitely order those. But if you're looking for somebody who can really enact change on a broader scale, consider ordering a prevention team.
Yeah, I think they're just like missing the broader scale of reaching folks at a different level that they just haven't, it just hasn't quite hit them of the value of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. And just out of curiosity, in the chat box, if folks could say if they could see my presentation or not. I tried presenting in a different way that I hadn't presented before. There was a button in my PowerPoint application that said present in Teams. And it gave me the laser pointer and the highlighter and the eraser. But just if you couldn't see the slides, I'd love to know that, because I won't use that button anymore. It's a new thing. I'm a button pusher. Okay, it sounds like most folks could see it. And it showed up a little differently. I appreciate that feedback. Anything else on national, regional, local prevention teams, the subcommittee, or even the training process or upcoming PIOC conversion? A lot of good feedback about the presentation, so I appreciate that.
Zach, we just had a question from Wesley. Lack of awareness seems to be a common thread. Heard that in the Florida presentation.
Yeah, that one's always tough to me. I do hear that a lot, and I wonder where the lack of awareness is coming from. whether it's the, awareness of Wesley, if you wouldn't mind expanding on that a little bit, is it the lack of awareness that the prevention team resource is there and available? Because that's definitely something we could help remedy, or is it the lack of awareness of what prevention teams do, or just overall awareness about prevention?
Yeah, the reference that I made to the Florida presentation yesterday seemed to be more mission based. What kind of what they were hitting on. But yeah, there may be an overall awareness, that they're, not really in the forefront, not something that they think about requesting. I think the CMAT teams are something that's kind of new and on the upswing. I received a call from the Croatan National Forest just the other day saying, "Hey, what is this? What is this? Is this something that we can request?" Just a general unawareness. And with prevention teams having the history that they have versus the CMAT teams, I think that awareness should be out there. So based on what I've heard today and yesterday, it seemed to be more of a mission specificity.
Gotcha. Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, just from my experience that we've seen a lot of turnover in the wildland fire management in the upper echelons and ranks, and there's probably some people that came up through purely operational channels that never had the exposure to fire prevention in general, and specifically fire prevention teams. So we're constantly trying to promote the program and help folks understand what the capabilities and limitations are. Do I see another hand out there somewhere, Robin?
EJ has her hand up. Go ahead, EJ.
I was going to address Gwen's question about CWPPs. So, certainly you can identify the need for prevention activities within your CWPP, but I'm not sure how that doesn't necessarily come with any funding. So I saw that Bruce put in the chat too. I think Texas might be the only state I know of that has ordered the state forestry agency is the one that placed the order for a prevention team. And looks like they used their P code to do that. Same process as when the federal government orders a prevention team, they have a P code, a support code, or sometimes a severity code to utilize. But Texas is the one that did it. They used a P code and paid for it out of their own fire suppression funds.
Nice. Way to go, Texas. Okay.
The best way is, find your closest national forest and partner with them. See if you can do some sort of either cost share or a unified order for the team. That would make it a little more economically available to other people.
And thanks, EJ and Zach. And this, again, it's Mark Thibodeau. Just wanted to say that the large fire support codes is an approved method from the federal government, at least the Forest Service, specifically to fund those teams. So kind of like a new severity almost. I'm not the funding kind of guy, but I'm no guru on that. But we have, and I hope to see more requests coming through as for large fire support and the reduction of human caused fires using that code.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. It looks like Ludi has her hand up.
Yeah, just a thought talking about the awareness of what prevention teams and CMAT teams do or don't, or it not being in a thought that a national forest might be considered. We do a lot with prevention or mitigation or information officers. We do so much work concentrating on our external audiences that a lot of times our internal audiences kind of go by the wayside. So, or they're not at the forefront of a lot of our communication efforts. So it kind of just a thought I'm throwing out there. It seems like it might be beneficial to do maybe some internal communications with our federal agencies who would order a prevention team to remind them here's what a prevention team does, here's what it doesn't do, here's what a CMAT team does, here's what it doesn't do. And just to kind of get that fresh in their minds as we start moving through our fire seasons, and just doing some of that internal communications on going through, how do you go about ordering them? What are the trigger points of when you should order a team or consider ordering a team? So just as everybody's talking about some of these things, those were just some of the thoughts that came to my mind. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I appreciate those thoughts, Ludi. And yeah, you're exactly right. The one thing I would offer to that is that, at least from the federal perspective, from the BLM and Forest Service, we're seeing a lot more infrastructures, not human capital, being invested into fire prevention, probably more than I've ever seen in my career. And having those key positions not continue to be vacant, but be filled with dedicated fire prevention specialists is going to be pretty key in getting our message across. And I know there's still some collateral duties assigned to some prevention folks. We're continuing to address that, but more and more, I'm seeing an emphasis on hiring people who are dedicated fire prevention, and those people are going to be our advocates for getting the word out about the program. It's a great time to be in fire management, and it's a great time to be in fire prevention. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, including things like this symposium this week. Really appreciate everybody who's involved in keeping these programs active and relevant. Anything else before I turn it back?
Any other questions for Zach? Good discussion. A lot of good information being presented. And I put the some of the links there for the different presentations and all the fire prevention resources. Again, check those out. They've done a tremendous job with everything that's available there. A lot of photo library, a lot of media, graphics, whatever you need. There's a lot of good information there for teams. Okay.
Thanks, Robin.
We're going to go ahead.